Hello everyone! Welcome to my very first private server review over the 6.2.4 World of Warcraft Warlords of Draenor PvE private server, Valhalla Realms. This is going to be a strange one for my first video, given that I don't typically like anything past Wrath of the Lich King, minus some of the Cata content. But I'm always curious to see how developers handle things, especially with current WoW. So, with all that being said, I do think I'm going to be ready to jump in and see how this one holds up. We are starting off with my rogue, who I'm always a rogue, named Splicer, hence the title. And I will say this much, right off the bat, when you first start into the opening zone in Elwynn Forest, all the quests work. Like, I mean, there's nothing that's not working on a Blizz-like level. Everything is scripted like it should be. Even the mobs behave like they should, hence these guards. I mean, the guards actually look like they're on death's door, which is how they're supposed to look. So after I got done with this, there's one thing I absolutely had to check out because of all I've heard in the past of other private servers, anything Cata up, is the Vineyard quest. I wanted to see how well the fires worked, with markers or anything like that. There were no markers. The fires actually work like they're supposed to. You extinguish them just like you're supposed to in retail. So even the guards march like they're supposed to around the North Shire Valley. So I ended up back in Goldshire, and I expected more things to start going downhill from here, but I was completely wrong. All the quests in Elwynn Forest seem to work without a hitch. Everything seems to work very well. And there is one thing I decided to do on this, because the Valhalla Realms does have two ways to kind of help you progress, because some of the content outside of the starting zones does happen to be broken. You can go to their website, and once you're on here, you have two choices. One is to vote on their shop and or their site and get heirloom gear. The other is you can modify and flex your rates to gain a little bit higher. So I went ahead and did both of those things. It upped my my experience gains, and I started equipping all my heirloom gear, and now I'm a raid boss to all the mobs in Elwynn Forest. So I continued questing here to see what all was going on. I did finally pick up professions to kind of see how they would work out. Just your basics like fishing, first aid, cooking, and things like that. Because I know a lot of times the trainers are kind of bugged on some of these servers, but not on this one. This one, they actually work really well. You can train, you can cook, all that seems to work fine. I did eventually pick up leatherworking and skinning, and it seemed to work just as well. I didn't have any issues. Fishing, on the other hand, gave me some issues. No matter where I went or where I casted my rod, I continuously got interrupted. That's what it always said. Even if I wasn't moving at all, just casting into it, I didn't seem to have any luck there. So, but the last thing I decided to do on this one was to, a rare mob. I did find a rare I'd never seen before, which I thought was kind of cool. The only two things I could see that I thought the team might want to work on would be their pathfinding, which, like I said, none of this is game-breaking or ruins your experience. And the other would be the high aggro range of the mobs. These mobs go out of their way to get you because they can pick you up from a mile away. So the last thing I decided to do in Elwynn Forest was to take on Hogger. I sneak up behind him and bam, I one-shot this guy. I know he's not supposed to die. The Stormwind guards are supposed to come and arrest him and then take him in for to the stockades. Here, I waited around to see if maybe that was going to happen, but with him being dead, I'm pretty sure the guards decided not to even waste their time coming out of the keep. So I did try the random dungeon finder. It seemed like it worked, but I couldn't ever get into a group because the population here is really, really low, which doesn't make sense to me because this server actually has a lot of working content in comparison to something like Ashran, which blows my mind. So I did make my way into Westfall. When I got here, I was eager to start questing here. So I decided to take the quest from Horatio Lane. He gives you the entire chain all at once, but I wanted to go ahead and start with Murder Was the Case. And when I went over here to question all of these homeless citizens, nothing seemed to happen. I couldn't get a single one of the 4 clues. I tried them all over the place. I did try the quest from Lou, where you take his box to the back of the Jangalode mine. But once you pick up the quest, you don't really have to do it. You can just turn around and cash it in. I'm assuming it's not completed yet, or it's not been scripted out yet. From here, you do get the quest where you eavesdrop on the thugs, and when you do go around there to kind of like eavesdrop on them, nothing really happens. You can stand around. I waited probably for a good 5 to 10 minutes, and nothing seemed to happen with these guys whatsoever. The last thing I tried to do was I did go to Sentinel Hill and when I got here, I was looking around and I saw Grind Stout Mantle in 2 places because the phasing is kind of blurred. But the quests do work. It's just no matter which one of the Grind Stout Mantles you talk to, you get the same amount of you get the same quests. It's just the phasing is just kind of blurred. But I did finally make my way through Westfall. I ended up finally traveling through Duskwood. As I started going through Duskwood, I started noticing that more quests seemed to be working. Duskwood does have a lot of kill grind quests, which kind of helps out. But to make a long story short, your questing from here on out, all the way up until 58, is it can be done. I mean, there is enough working content to get you through. But it wasn't until I hit like some of Thousand Needles worked, some of Tenaris worked, and then I ended up getting, because I quested on Kalimdor mostly at that point, Fellwood and then Winter Spring worked really well, and that's what boosted me into 58 to go to Outlands. When I got through the portal, I did want to kind of check out to see how the demons were lined up and moving. They were a little clustered at the beginning, but when you finally get to the dark portal itself, they seem to be doing what they're supposed to be doing for the most part. The only other thing that I thought was kind of weird when I first came in to Outlands was the Fell Reavers. The Fell Reavers have no agenda. They just kind of stand around and stare blankly. So, in a way, that's kind of good. You won't get killed by them. The guards aren't really scripted in honor hold. They just kind of stand around and just await their orders, I guess. But the questing in Hellfire actually isn't bad, because I think 75% of the quests that I did were working here. I was really amazed at how many actually were working. And I know that a lot of their content is still a work in progress outside of the beginning zones. But everything here seemed to really go. In fact, I went from 58 all the way to 68 just in Hellfire Peninsula. And a lot of that was due to my high experience gains as well as the heirloom gear. So, but overall, there's enough here working. And I did actually talk to a lot of people who are in the guild that I joined that said that a lot of the content in the Grand still works, which, you know, once again, it's a lot of kill grind, so I wouldn't expect it not to. And yeah, at one point in time, I just decided to swim to my destination instead of take the flight. Have no idea how this happened.
Go.
So now that I've dinged, I am ready to travel into Northrend, where, from what I've been told, Northrend and the Lich King content seems to be the best on this server. Funny, given it's a Warlord server, but we'll check it out. I am at the Borean Tundra in Northrend, and already my heirloom gear has just disappeared. Apparently, when you hit the cap on your heirloom gear, which mine was level 60, it automatically unequips from you for some unknown reason, and even if you spawn new ones, you cannot re-equip them. So here I was dead in the water without any weapons or anything, so I had to go out and just kind of scavenge to find things that would work. And the quest actually worked really well here. I had a really good time in the Borean Tundra. The Northrend content is what I felt was even better than Outlands. Even the cultist quest work, which some servers don't even have that going on right. But here, they work flawlessly. As did actually a lot of other things, even the ones with the harvesters, where you actually have to go out and kill the harvesters and then rewire the harvester. All that, not a single issue. There is one thing that I began to have, where I started to see a flaw or two, and it was when I got to level that guy. And what ended up happening with him was, you're supposed to take the trident, you're supposed to stab him, weaken him to 25%. Not here. I actually annihilated him with one hit, and sadly I did not get credit for the quest. But that's just one of the very, very few ones that don't work in the Borean Tundra. And I went pretty much all the way through it. The other things, there were some funny bugs in this, like for example the tree climbing a tree. I thought that was pretty funny. I have no idea how it happened or how he got up there. There's other things too, like the minefield. The cannons underground actually don't shoot at you. They come to life like attack dogs. And they chase you, and they kill you. Obviously here, I thought I was in the clear. Here goes my vanish, and I die. So yeah, that was a little bit frustrating. So Storm Peaks and Zoldrak both had a hit or miss going on. And of course, Dalaran, none of the people that were trying to land like the guests, none of them had clearance apparently to actually land in Dalaran to check it out. But overall, I give Northrend 2 thumbs up. It was really great, really, really well done. So after this point in time, I hit 80. I'm all ready to go check out the Cataclysm content, and everyone told me Vashir is in really bad shape, which most servers it is. So I decided that the best thing for me to do was to test out Hyjal. So when I got to Mount Hyjal, I ended up immediately picking up all the quests I could find. I was all ready to go. And the first thing I started to notice is that this is where I started to see problems with the server. And it just kind of continues from this point. The NPCs weren't spawning. People, like, quest people who you had to turn in the quest to, they didn't spawn. Some of the mobs didn't spawn. I think I had 38 of 15 quests done by the time I had left Mount Hyjal. So Hyjal and Vashir, if I had to pick between the two, I'd say this one probably is the better one. But all of this right here seems to need some work, because there's a lot of quests here that just don't seem to work out like you would hope they would. And I continued through Hyjal for a pretty good ways. I actually got even further than this part right here. I got further on down the mountain to where you have to fight off the worgen. You have to, the part where you got to, oh yeah, and by the way, Shadow Step, if you're a rogue like me, you are highly screwed in Mount Hyjal, because every single time that you attempt to Shadow Step behind a mob, you will plummet through the earth. And some of the mobs will actually kind of bob in and out from under the earth because they're not on a level field. And this is not the first time I've seen this. I've actually seen this in a lot of different private servers, and Mount Hyjal seems to be the worst zone for it. But I continued questing, and some of the portals you're supposed to go through to go into different zones, like the area where you got to ride the fire the hippogriff around in the fire zone. None of that stuff seems to work out. You can't go through the portals to do it. And when I got to the parts with the turtles and stuff like that, I had a really hard time. I decided to blow this off because they also told me that Oldham was a good place to go to, so I decided to head into Oldham. When I got to Oldham, I kid you not, I did not find one single quest that I could turn in or do, because every single quest I picked up was bugged. And there was probably a good 10 to 12 of them I tried before finally giving up on that and going to the Twilight Highlands. Twilight Highlands had at least 5 or 6 that I was able to do, but even then it was a scavenger hunt to find out where you needed to be. And I finally did end up getting to 85, and then from 85 I was like, okay, now I'm going to head into Pandaria. And this is where everyone told me I was really going to start tearing my hair out, because they said that when you finally get into to the Pandaria content, that a lot of it is broken, and so is the Draenor content. So what I decided to do was I wanted to see it firsthand to see if there maybe I could like scavenge around and kind of find some quests to do. I didn't find hardly anything that I could do there. In fact, Jade Forest, half the quests were missing, and when you did accept them, none of them would actually work out. Even the gathering items that you would find, like the kegs, none of that seemed to work either. So, once again, mobs weren't spawning, NPCs weren't spawning, like there was a whole big issue with that. So I finally had messaged the guild I was in, which, Born to Kill, they're actually a really good guild. And like I said, the community is hands down the strongest part of this entire server. It's got a really good community of players, even though the content is lacking in the later expansions. But a guy in my guild, Verithos, he actually offered to take me over to do a grind spot in the Valley of the Four Winds. So I was like, I'm all for it. I'll give it a shot, because it was kind of disheartening to find out that none of the quests seemed to work, because what he said was, and what a lot of people in the guild and a lot of people in the general chat had told me, is that most of your quests in Pandaria really are kind of screwed. I mean, you really can't do much. But what you can do is there's a little spot over here where you can just grind out XP by just killing mobs over and over and over. And to me, that just didn't sound like fun. At this point, I really was kind of exhausted with everything, so I kind of called it quits. I didn't make it into the Draenor content, but from what I was told, the Draenor content, the beginning of it works really well, like the scripted event from the beginning of the expansion. But once you get into Draenor itself, they said that it's just a lot of grind, especially from 92 to 100 is just find a spot, grind mobs, and it just didn't sound appealing to me. So my final thoughts on this server. My final thoughts on Valhalla Realms as Warlords of Draenor PvE realm is that I honestly cannot recommend it. But I will say this much. The developers are really trying hard here, I can tell, but it seems like their efforts are all over the place. Instead of focusing on a central area, fixing it up really well like they did with the starter zones, and then moving forward. I would love to see what they would do with scripting as this goes on. In fact, I think given it about a year, maybe 2 at the most, I think their server will be on par with something like Atlantis as far as scripting goes. So the other great things I can say is, like I've told you before, the community is really well. The population's a little low, and I don't look for that to change until more of their content becomes fixed. I do know that they are also trying to incorporate Legion with their server, which is a great idea. But if I had some advice to give to them, I would put Legion on the back burner, and I would focus on what they have. And then once they get a really strong core built for the Warlords of Draenor expansion and previous expansions, then I would tackle Legion. But that's just my opinion and just my thoughts. But anyways, guys, that's the review. And if you did like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And hopefully we'll be seeing a whole lot more of these, because I do enjoy doing them, and I'm looking forward to seeing what I can review next. And if you guys have any suggestions, please drop me a server you'd like to see me review in the comments below. Thanks a lot. Bye.